Hi, dear friends, some words of Torah for Parshat Devarim and Shabbat Chazon. Every Friday night, we begin Kabbalat Shabbat with Psalm 95. It starts off beautifully with a very appropriate theme for welcoming the Sabbath. L'chu niranana l'Hashem, naria litzor yishena. We sing it so beautifully. L'chu niranana. Let's go out. Let's sing to Hashem. Let us shout joyfully to the rock of our salvation. Let's go before him with thanks and sing praises loudly before him. What a great way to start off Shabbos. But then the psalm takes a dark turn and takes us back to when we traveled for 40 years in the desert. By the end of the paragraph, we are recalling Hashem's anger with us. The psalm calls upon us to not be hard-hearted like we were in the desert. It ends with God expressing frustration over how much we angered him during those 40 years. It sounds nice as a song, Arba'im Shana, but when you read the words, for 40 years I fought with that generation, says God. I said, what a wayward people this is, who know not my ways. I swore in my wrath that they would not enter my resting place of Eretz Yisrael. So why the switch? We start off with so much joy and love, and now we end with God's stern rebuke? What's going on? It would seem that the psalmist is speaking to each of us. It's as if, after calling upon everyone to sing, he sees a lackluster response in his audience. He has to exhort the people and say, why aren't you singing? Don't be hard-hearted like you were in the desert. Despite all the miracles that were taking place all around you, all you did was complain. Don't be like those people were during those 40 years in the desert. If you imitate that lack of appreciation, you'll never make it to the promised land. It's a great message for those of us who are ushering in the Sabbath. We've had a long week and we may be tired and weary. We're called upon to remind ourselves how this past week was truly amazing, how miracles took place all around us, even if we failed to realize it in the moment. Let's recall how, when the people failed to see miracles in the desert, they failed to enter into the land of Israel. If we wish to enter into the promised land of Shabbat properly, to experience the holiness of this special island in time, we should take a moment to rejoice over the wonders of the week and our lives. At the beginning of our Parsha, Moshe begins a review of the events of the past 40 years. He sought to remind Bnei Israel that in order for them to enter into the Holy Land, they would need to reflect on all that occurred over the past years and realize all the miracles that had befallen them. Yes, life was difficult at times, but Hashem was with them at all times, watching over them like a dutiful parent. Unfortunately, Bnei Israel hadn't always been obedient and appreciative of their miraculous sojourn. Don't be like them, says Moshe. In order to enter the land, you need to change your attitude and appreciate all the miracles of life. This Tisha B'Av, part of what we'll be reflecting upon, is not only the terrible tragedies that have occurred over our long history, all the way starting from the spies in the desert, all the way through October 7th. We'll also be reflecting on the causes for those terrible events. One of the underlying causes of all of our tragedies was our failure to appreciate God during the good times, our failure to see the miracles all around us, our lack of vision, how to see how the Yad Hashem was with us throughout. Let's use our time over Tisha B'Av to rectify our past myopia. The Bnei Yissaschar commentary makes a fascinating observation. There are only 2 verses in all of Tanakh which begin with the word Arba'im, 40. One is our verse that we just quoted from Psalm 95, Arba'im Shana Kut Bidor. I fought with you for 40 years, says God in the desert. The other one is Parshat Ki Teitzei, Arba'im Yakenu Lo Yosif. Now the verse commands how when the Beit Din, when the Jewish tribunal court administers lashes to a criminal, they must whip him 40 times and no more. What is the connection between Malkut, the 40 lashes, and the 40 years in the desert? Our sages have a tradition that in reality, the Beit Din may only administer 39 lashes, not 40. Where do they derive this from? The verse in Tehillim writes that God fought with us for 40 years after the sin of the spies. But the sin of the spies, in fact, was during our second year of sojourning in the desert, which means that our strife in the desert with God was only 39 years. Similarly, 40 in the context of lashes only means 39. Furthermore, 39 is really 40 in another sense. The Targum Yonatan, in translating the verse into Aramaic, states that after the court administrator has whipped the criminal 39 times, he needs to lift his arm a 40th time with the whip to appear as if he's giving the 40th lash, but instead he stops. Using a cryptic passage in the Zohar, the Bnei Yissaschar explains that there are two aspects of God, one representing the Divine Father, and the other known as the Shekhinah representing the Divine Mother. Imagine a father who's got his son over his knee, and he's slapping his child on his bottom for some infraction. At some point, the boy's mother, who's watching with tremendous mercy and anxiety and compassion, intervenes and stays the father's hand. This is the imagery that the Torah is trying to convey. Hashem metes out stern punishment at different times, but even when doing so, he forces a stay of his hand to withhold the full number of blows. We all acknowledge as we enter into Tisha B'Av how painful those blows have been. We also acknowledge how they could have been so much more painful were it not for the occasional glimmers of light between the dark clouds that indicated to us that Hashem was still with us. Whether it was the rockets that were shot but never exploded, the Passover Iranian attack that hurt no one, the residents of Kfar Maimon who had a helicopter drop at the entrance of their kibbutz just as the terrorists were coming, or the personal accounts of some of the survivors of the Nova Festival, these events remind us that as much as our children were so horrifically murdered, there were miracles occurring at the same time. Hashem's hand was stayed at some point. We hope that this is a portent that we are coming to the end of the 40 years, the completion of the long galut, and that we are approaching the time of the stayed hand of God. Finally, the Talmud teaches that the verse, Arba'im Shana Okut Bidor, I fought with the Jews for 40 years, is conjugated strangely. It really says akut in the future tense, I will fight, instead of the past tense, I fought. The Gemara points out and learns from this verse that this verse portends that just as our sojourn in the desert was for 40 years, the Messianic age will last for 40 years. The Messianic age is the period of human perfection, which will lead to the world to come. As we remember the 40-year sojourn in our Torah readings over the summer, let us also lift our eyes toward the future and anticipate the 40 years of the Messianic age acting as that ultimate consolation. May we see it, dear friends, bimheira b'yameinu, amen. And if Mashiach doesn't come before, let me wish you a very meaningful Shabbat Chazon and Tisha B'Av, Tzom Miragesh. All the best.